What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Miniature Mayhem. My name's Chris. In today's tutorial we've got a really simple method for painting Qulathis the Exile. I really like the box art for this model, so I've tried to do a simplified version that absolutely anybody can achieve. If you find this video useful at all, smash that like button down below and don't forget to subscribe. As with the other character pieces from Curse City, I've given them a black primer with a zenithal highlight of white. And the first thing we're going to do is base coat the quilted material KABALITE green. This is quite a thin colour and will need a few coats. For the lining inside the coat, I've used MOURNFANG brown. Be careful around the green armour and don't forget to catch the areas under the arms. For the legs, quiver and dagger, I've used a base coat of KANTOR blue. Quite a few areas of this model are going to be in the brown spectrum, either gold or bone, so I decided to base coat all of these areas XV88. I use SKAVENBLIGHT DINGE to base coat the fur. And CORVUS black to base coat all of the leather. For the skin, I've applied a base coat of BUGMANS Glow. With all the base coats applied, we can now start working on the individual sections. I applied a wash of COELIA GREENSHADE to the green armour to pick out some of the quilting detail. Using watered down KABALITE green, I've picked out some of the raised details. The quilting can be difficult to get to, but just try and pick out each of the individual squares. You don't have to be too tidy here, as we're going to come back in later. Using SYBARITE green now, just to refine the shapes we created before. Adding a small amount of witch flesh into the SYBARITE green, now going around and highlighting all the raised areas and the topmost portions of each of the quilted areas. This can be a bit fiddly, but just take your time, work your way around slowly. For the blue areas, I've applied a wash of DRAKENHOF NIGHTSHADE and pulled it upwards into each of the quilted areas. With that now dry, I've mixed KANTOR blue and THUNDERHAWK blue together to highlight the blue areas. For the grey fur, apply a wash of NULN oil. Once that's dry, work your way around the fur and pick out the more prominent areas with DAWNSTONE grey. I've added some PALLID witch flesh to the DAWNSTONE. Apply this to the raised areas you've already highlighted. Using pure PALLID witch flesh, I'm applying a highlight to the very highest points of the fur. With that now complete, I'm using the same mix as before to apply a really fine edge highlight to the leather areas. Use the smallest brush you've got and just take your time here. For all of the gold sections, I've applied a base coat of VALLEJO Brassy Brass. I tend to use the VALLEJO metallics as I find they provide a nicer coverage than the GW versions. For the small amount of silver on this model, I've just used LEADBELCHER to base coat it. Using a mix of AGRAX EARTHSHADE Gloss and Matte Medium, I've applied a shade to all of the metallics. Using the medium in this mix takes away some of the glossiness from the paint, but still leaves it with a nice metallic sheen. the metal areas, I've applied a highlight of glorious gold, once again from VALLEJO. And finally on the gold areas, a fine edge highlight of STORMHOST silver. Use the same mix to highlight your LEADBELCHER as well. For the bow, apply a base coat of DRYAD bark. Using the edge of a fine brush, just applying a highlight of GORTHOR brown to the wood. For the arrows on the bow, the arrows on her back and the horns on her head, I've applied a base coat of ZANDRI dust. Using a mix of Screaming Skull and Medium, apply a highlight to the areas of bone closer to Qulathis' face, roughly the bottom third. For the top third, apply a base coat of DRYAD bark. Now, to start bringing those areas together, apply some highlights and striations from the DRYAD bark down into the Screaming Skull. This is a really easy 3-step method for painting horns. Using PALLID witch flesh, I'm just picking out all the feathers and all the arrows. Using KABALITE green, I've applied a little marking to each of the fletching. Now I've applied a little bit of Screaming Skull into an XV88 base coat to start working around the hair and applying highlights to all the raised areas. It's a really easy way of creating a nice looking blonde colour. It does take a little bit of time, but try and pick out each of the areas of the plait, as it is worth it in the end. On all the upper areas, apply a final highlight of Screaming Skull to the blonde hair to finish it off. Using KABALITE green, I've painted all of her hairbands. Using the same colours as the armour, I've highlighted that with SYBARITE green. Using Cadian Flesh Tone, I've gone completely over the base coat of BUGMANS Glow. Apply a highlight to all the raised areas by adding a small amount of witch flesh into the Cadian Flesh Tone. With that now complete, I decided to use the same colours I used for the hair to paint in Qulathis' eyebrows. Using a really fine brush, I'm just applying some little vertical dashes to represent each hair. Sorry about the banner placement there, but I've picked out each of the eyes with PALLID witch flesh. Using CORVUS black, just carefully apply a small dot for each eyeball. For the Lamentary on Qulathis' chest, I used Ahriman blue as a base coat. I spilled this over slightly onto the gold to create an OSL effect and applied a small highlight of Lothern blue. To finish off the Lamentary, I've just apply a small dash of Arctic white. And with that, Qulathis the Exile is now completed. That's it from me today, guys. If you found this tutorial useful, don't forget to hit that like button, share us with a friend, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an upload. As always, thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.